Hey crafters, Lisa here from Fun Stuff Crafts, back with you again on another Inspiration Friday. So this week I thought it would be fun to show you what I'm doing for an upcoming charity auction that I am putting together a basket for. So I kind of decided I wanted the theme to be around the kitchen. So I'm starting out with one of my cutting boards that I made last year for some bazaars, and they were quite a big hit. And so these cutting boards are actually glass cutting boards, and I picked them up at a range of places. The larger ones I picked up at Goodwill. They were brand new at Goodwill. They were on one of their end racks. And then I've also saw the little small clear ones at the Dollar Tree. So either way works, but the one that we're going to be working on today is one that I picked up at Goodwill. So I've made two of them. One of them we're going to be making in the tutorial, which is this one. And this is just a cute cutting board. I have one up in my kitchen that said, "This is us." And so this one is just always give thanks. And I'm going to use this one for the auction item. I also made a second one, a little bit smaller one, that I thought was also a really nice one. And this one says, "Family, our life, our story, our home." So one of the things this week in our Inspiration Friday I'm going to show you how to do is to bring down an image from a site I absolutely love, and it's Love SVG. So what we're going to do is we are going to go out there and look for a image on Love SVG. We're going to bring it down into Design Space, and then we are going to cut it on our Cricut and adhere it to our cutting boards. So just give me a second to get my camera angle change and we will get making. Today, I thought what we'd work on for Inspiration Friday is a project that is going to use one of my favorite sites to go out and find an image. So to start out with today, I'm going to show you how to upload an image into Cricut Design Space, and I am going to find my my picture from Love SVG. And this is a site that I found, and it has just got thousands of different images that you can do. And all of these you can download, and there are different sections, and you can see this says free SVG for crafters. Now the key here is if you're going to sell your project, you need to do the commercial license. But I am getting ready to do a project that I am going to donate for an auction item. So what I'm looking for is something that has to do with thanks, because we are going to be putting together a cutting board today. So I looked through here earlier today and I found this one that I really liked, that is always give thanks. So again, what you can do is you can go up to the search. There are all different kinds of categories that you can pick from. And so if you have a specific topic you're looking for, you can do it that way. I end up just going in and putting it in the search, and I normally find what I like. So if this is the image that we're going to use, I'm going to click on it. It's going to bring it up as a larger image so we can really see the detail in it. And you can see that it will come down as an SVG. SVG is the key for us to be able to bring it into Design Space. It also comes in as a DXF. It shows you that it is a free image. It also has an EPS, and it also has a ping extension. You're going to get all four of those extensions when we do this download. So what you do is you scroll down, and you are going to come down, and this again tells you about personal use. So I really want to emphasize this, that the file is free for personal use. But if you are going to sell these, maybe you're working on some bazaar items, you do need to purchase the commercial license. Okay, so what we're going to do is, and it gives you the pricing down here for the license if you want it. So what we're going to do is we are going to download the zip file. Now I am on my Mac Air, And so I am going to have it download for me, and it's going to show up right in my download file. Okay, so I know where it's at. Next thing, okay, now that we've downloaded our image, we are going to go into Design Space, okay, and we are going to do a new project. So from the new project, we are going to upload our image. Now I've already uploaded this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it again so I can show you guys how I got it uploaded. Okay, so we're going to click upload image. We are going to browse, and mine automatically came to where I had it saved at. So we are going to go to our SVG. That's the one we want to bring in, and we're going to hit open. Now, but because we brought in an SVG, there's nothing more that we need to do. You could also upload other extensions. JPEG is a really common one I do also. There's more work to do when you've done a JPEG, and we'll do a tutorial on that at a later date. But for now, let's go with our SVG, and we're going to just say save. Now the name does default in, and you can put a tag in. What I would use a tag for is if I was searching at a later date and I didn't think my title was going to bring back what I wanted. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave tag blank for now. So we're going to go ahead and hit save. And then I'm going to grab my image and I am going to insert him. Okay. So now my image is all grouped together right now. So one of the things I like to do right away is I like to ungroup it. Okay. And the reason why I want to ungroup it is I want to make sure that my black items there always give thanks prints together. So let's just take a peek here really quick. If I were to go to make right now, you would see that it's all on the black mat, but it's not in the order that I would want it to do. Would that work? Yes. Would it be extra work you'd have to do, lining everything up? Absolutely. So what I like to do is I like to ungroup it, and then I like to grab the items that I want to have grouped. And you can see down below, I've picked up the give, the always, and the thanks. Okay, so I am going to attach them all together. Now I can attach because everything is already black. Okay, if I would have hit attach and grabbed other pieces of my design, they would have all turned to black. So that's the reason why I did not grab these other little decorations off to the side. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to get in and look at how this is laid out. Okay, now again, let's hit the make button. If I hit the make button now, I've taken care of my black, right? It's going to print come up very nice. If I come over to my other colors, they are going to come out like that. Okay, they're pretty small, so I think those are definitely doable, and they are 3 different colors. If you wanted to make these guys be the same color, one of the things that I like to use is this feature up here called Sync, Color Sync. And what we can do is we can say, you know what, I think I want these to be the same color. So this is a cool feature. All you do is drag it down, and now those are going to be the exact same color. Okay. If we decide we don't want to have those be a different color, all I do is bring those up. Now you can also go back to your layer tab, and I could have grabbed one of these and I could have changed it up here. But the color sync is nice if you're not quite sure that you're getting the exact color. Okay, so now we have our design and we're ready to go. Now we want to make sure that we've got the right size. Okay, so I have pre-measured my, I have pre-measured my cutting board that we're going to be working with today, and it's 13 by 15. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and make my width be 13 and my width be 10 and a half. Okay, that gives me room around and I can center this in my design. Now, this is going to print and do perfectly fine because of how the design is. Now, one thing you always want to keep in mind is this width and this height really is going to be dependent on what size mats that you have available to use. Okay, Cricut comes with the 12 by 12 and they come with the 12 by 24. So when I go out to make it right now for this, says you're good to go with your 12 by 12 mat. If I would have made that bigger, I would have come over here and I could have changed the size of my mat. Okay, now we are going to be putting this on the back side of a glass cutting board. So because I'm going to be doing that, I need to make this be a mirror image. Okay, so it's very easy to do that. You click right there and now you can see my image has flip-flopped. I'm going to go ahead and go down and do it for both of them so I don't forget. It's probably one of the easiest things I forget each time is to make sure that you click on mirror image. Nothing worse than getting an image totally cut out and realize you forgot to mirror image and you've wasted your vinyl. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and hit continue. And now I'm using my Maker, and you can see it is hooking up to my Bluetooth right now. And it's not going to find it right away because Lisa did not have her Bluetooth or Maker turned on. But I went ahead and just turned my Maker on. And so what we're going to do now is we are going to pick the material we're going to be using. And I am just using basic vinyl for this. If yours does not default up, what you can do is go over here to browse all materials. Now, what I've done, those ones that default in, I've selected them as my favorites because I use them all the time. But if you don't have any favorites done, all you need to do is type vinyl here, and you can see there are all types of vinyl available to you. Okay, so you can go down the list, and there's just basic vinyl. There's, you know, your all your premium different type vinyls. So just make sure that you pick the correct vinyl. Okay, so I am using 651 vinyl. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do premium outdoor vinyl because 651 is a classified as an outdoor vinyl. I just like it because I'm putting it on a cutting board. I'm going to go ahead and select this as one of my favorites. And so it will pop up now as one of my favorites when I'm looking at my default materials. Okay. Now Design Space, and this is really important. Make sure you read what Design Space is telling you to do. It is saying you don't need anything in clamp A. You need your fine point blade in clamp B, and then you need to push the load button. And then the next thing it's going to do is it's going to ask us to press the go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to move on over. I'm going to load my vinyl on my mat, and then we will start cutting. So I've moved over to my Cricut area, and I have my mat out that I use for, it's a self-healing mat from Cricut, and I like to cut my vinyl to fit my design on my mat. So what I'm using is the extra large ruler from Cricut along with the large ruler. And this just works really nice. The mat that I have underneath is a self-healing mat, so it works really well with the X-Acto knife. So now I have got a 12 by 12 piece because that is what's going to fit on my Cricut cutting mat. So I slide my self-healing mat away, and I'm going to bring in one of my Cricut mats. Now, these are new mats, and everything likes to stick to them really good. So I'm just going to place my vinyl, the shiny side up, and I am going to, as you can see, it really wants to stick to my mats. I am going to place it on my mat, and now I like to use my varnishing tool here and really make sure I've got a good seal on my vinyl on my mat. So I'm going to pull my Cricut out, and Cricut always says to give yourself 10 inches on the back, about. And so I'm going to pull that out. I am going to load my mat, and you can see that I've got my fine point in tool slot B and nothing in A. So once you load it, one of the very first things that Cricut is going to do, or my maker is going to do after I hit the go button, is it is going to check to make sure that I have got the appropriate blade in tool spot B. So now Cricut is going to go ahead and, or my maker is going to go ahead and connect with Design Space, and it is going to cut out my design. Now I am going to fast forward through this next section because literally all it's doing is cutting out our design. Okay, our design is done, and I am going to unload it from my machine. And I'm going to close up just to give myself a little bit more space here. And I'm going to show you how I unload my vinyl from the mat. I always go upside down, and I take my design off and pull my mat away. The mats are pliable, and so they're not going to break on you, and it just really helps with pulling it this way. Some people like to weed on the mat. I prefer to weed off of the mat. So we're going to go ahead and set that one off to the side. And then our next color was that brown that we chose. And I am once again going to use my Cricut self-healing mat, my large ruler, and my knife. And I need about 5 inches. And so I'm going to cut that out of my brown vinyl. And then I'm going to go through the same process that we did with the first spot of vinyl. Put my mat away here, and then we are going to put the brown onto the cutting mat. And then I also like to, again, make sure it's adhered very well. Now you can see as I'm putting this one on, I have got a bubble there in my vinyl, and so you always want to make sure that that is nice and adhered and there are no air pockets. So really important there. So now we're going to go ahead, and my maker already knows that there's another mat coming, and so I am going to go ahead and load that brown on, and I am going to push my load button. Now if you'll notice here, I did not pull my machine out quite far enough. So you always want to make sure you do that. When I use my larger ones, I turn my machine sideways when I use my 12 by 24. So we're going to let the machine do its business here, and then we will remove that and do our weeding. And you can see we're done with the design now, so I'm going to unload my machine, push my Cricut back, or my maker back, and we are going to remove that vinyl the same way we did with the black vinyl, peeling it off from the back. And then I hang up my mats, so I'm going to hang my mat back up and put my plastic cover over it. And then what we're going to do now is we are going to start our weeding process. And I know I've talked to you guys about this before, but I use my pin pen from 651 Vinyl to do all of my weeding. So what we're going to do is we're going to start in the corner, and I like to work my way across, and you can see that my maker definitely did a nice job of cutting. Now with the maker, I was able to select my material type, and my machine automatically knew what depth and what setting to cut on. I know on some of the other Cricut machines, you actually have to set it. So very important that you set for your right material. Nothing worse than going through a full cut and then determining that you've used the wrong material setting. I've done that many times before, so always make sure you have the right setting. So this black one definitely is a little bit bigger weeding job. And so sometimes what I like to do is to start weeding it. And then I usually have my scissors handy so that I can get some of that vinyl that I'm weeding away out of my way. And so you'll see here that I'm starting to pull some of this up, and I very carefully grab it and keep one hand with the vinyl that is being pulled up. But I do like to cut away some of that just so I don't have vinyl sticking together and making a very big mess. So this is one little trick that I like to do when I have a larger area to weed. So we're just going to continue to pull all of that away. Now, one thing that I do have in my craft room is I have garbage cans at each one of my workstations. So one way I find to keep my work area picked up is to have multiple garbage cans. So I have one right below myself here at my Cricut station. I have another garbage can next to my sewing station, and then I have one at my desk area. So I always try to get rid of that garbage as I'm working on things, just to keep that area clean. So now one thing you want to make sure you do here is really look closely at your design and make sure that you fully weed it. I've been known to leave in the middle of an E or leave in the middle of an A. And so you always want to make sure that you are looking at your design and that you've fully weeded it before you get ready to put your transfer tape on. So what I like to do is, as you can see, I'm just weeding and then I'm putting it on my fingers just to get it out of the way. And then, of course, I'll just throw those in the garbage. Now, one thing you will note here is I've got both of these fully weeded, and our next step is going to be we are going to use transfer tape. Now, everybody's got their personal preference on their transfer tape, but I really like to use 651 blue grid transfer tape. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut a piece the same size as my design, but I just noticed that I forgot to remove the little circles inside of my give. So this is one of those things where I didn't look very closely at my design. So you want to make sure that you're looking closely at the design so you can see that you've got all of your weeding done. So as I work through getting those done, and now I've got those all taken out and we're ready to go with our design. So there's two ways to do a design. I could do this all as one, or I could do it individually. And when I say individually, the black and then the brown. And that's what I'm going to do. So what I like to do is get my transfer out. Now I'm using, as I said, the 651 blue grid transfer tape. And one of the reasons why I like that is I love the grid lines when you're trying to get a design just to the right size. So I'm measuring my transfer tape just over the top, and then I'm going to trim it up. Now, one of the tricks I like when I am putting on transfer tape is not to pull it all apart at once. Sometimes you can have quite a big mess when you are doing that. And so what I like to do is just take off a one side of it, and then I'm going to easily peel it back, and you'll be able to see here. So I'm taking just a corner of that off, and I end up using my pin pen to get that started, just to pick up a little bit of the transfer tape. And then see how I'm just pulling it back just a little bit, and then I'm going to start that on the side of my design, just like that, lay it, and then just very slowly peel the rest of my transfer tape off there. And then I like to take my varnishing tool, and I just really want to make sure that my design is adhered to the transfer tape. Just double checking that all here, making sure it's good. And then what we'll want to do is we are going to put this onto our cutting board. And so what I like to do is make sure I've picked up my workspace. So putting away my DigiPen, and remember I told you I've got a garbage can close by, so I'm going to get rid of those extra material that I've got, that waste I've got there. And then we are going to get our cutting board. Now our cutting board, I picked this up at Goodwill, and there is a rough side, which is the side you would use when you're cutting something. And then there is also the back side, and the back side is the smooth area. Now we need to make sure that we clean this area so that our vinyl is going to adhere to it. So I'm going to grab some alcohol and a paper towel. And the reason why we want to clean it with alcohol is we want to make sure there's no oils on there, and we want our vinyl to adhere really well. So I just use rubbing alcohol. I don't know if I picked this up at the grocery store or at the dollar store, but I always have rubbing alcohol on hand. And so I'm just going to rub that across our image. Excuse me, our cutting board. Now the other thing that's really handy with these, my Cricut mat, is it's going to help me determine my center also. So I'm going to pull that mat back out, and I'm going to use it as my grids. So I'm going to eyeball that I'm just about centered there, okay? And then what we're going to do is on our image, before I unpeel it, I am going to fold my image in half so I can determine where my center is, okay? So I can eyeball it and know that basically this line right here is going to be my center. And then if I want to do it this way also, make sure I get my image there, so it's that guy to this line. Okay, so I know roundabout, and I'm just going to kind of mark it here. That is there, and that is there. Okay, so I kind of have an idea. Now, of course, this moved on me. Okay, so now I know I've got a 12 by 12 mat, all right? So that's my center right there on my mat. Okay, so if I follow my two lines down, so right about where the V is, I'm going to know that's where I want to eyeball and lay it if I want my design to be totally centered. Now maybe you don't want your design centered, but I do want to get it centered. Okay, so I am going to remove my backing of my vinyl. I always do it this way because remember, this is sticky, okay? So we're going to remove it, and you're just going to watch and make sure all your letters have adhered. Okay, if they haven't, just repress it and stick it down. Okay, so we are good there. Okay, So now, very carefully, I'm going to flip this around. And remember, I'm eyeballing, there's my center, and there's where my V is. And I'm going to very, very carefully lay down my design. Okay. Now I'm using my trusty little scraper guy to make sure it's on here really, really well. Okay. Then we're going to, now I want to reuse this transfer tape. So I'm going to be really careful that I'm not letting it stick to each other as I'm pulling it up. Okay. As you can see, my design, if you get any little bubbles, just do them with your fingers. And thought I forgot one of my little holes there, but it looks like it's all okay. So this is really, okay, see what happened right there? So all you have to do is push him back down. Oops. And he's going to be ornery on us. So I just use my fingernail, and he's still going to be ornery. So this is my other trick. And so we are just going to grab him. There's always one little ornery piece. Never goes perfect. Okay. Oops. So now we have got our give thanks. Okay. So now what we want to decide is we have got the little design pieces to add in. And what I'm going to do is I am going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut off. Told you I wasn't going to let this stick together, and I sure did, didn't I? So I'm going to cut off some of this. It's much easier to use a smaller piece now. Okay, so I have got these guys. I'm going to do one at a time. I'm just going to adhere him on. Pull it off backwards like we did on the other one. Okay, and decide where I want to put this. Now, I'm going to line my mat up again. I really like using this grid. And then that way I can see how I've got this lined up. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him in really close, and I'm going to put him like that. Okay. This is what's fun when you do it separate like this. You know, it might not be exactly like we downloaded it from SVG, but it is how you want it to be. Okay. So then we're going to do our second one like that. Okay. And as I'm doing it, I realize that these guys are not exactly the same. So I don't have to make them matched. So I'm going to put this guy at an angle, just to be a little different. Okay, so there we go. Now we've got all these cute little dots. And the dots, I am going to, where do I want to put the dots? Let's put the dots up here. So I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3. Okay. And then I'm going to come and grab my other dots. Oops. these little curly cues. What should we do with them? I'm actually going to throw them up here. Grab that. I'm going to throw that one up there too. Okay, so let's see what our cutting board looks like. I'm going to remove my mat so you can see this a little bit better. And look at that. Always give thanks. And now we've got a cutting board. So we can put this up as a decoration in our kitchen, and then we can also practically use it as a cutting board. Now, the 651 vinyl is a permanent vinyl, and as we talked, it is an outdoor vinyl. So it will adhere very well to this. You do not want to soak this cutting board, okay? Definitely wipe it down. You always want to keep it clean when you've got food on it. But go ahead and wipe it down really well. Just don't immerse it in the water. And let me show you one other one I made earlier that I thought was really cute. This one I used a 3-tone color on, and it is family, our life, our story, our home. And so these are 2 cutting boards that I made, and I picked these up at Goodwill. I know you can order just blank cutting boards online also, but this was a real fun project, and I'm actually going to be putting these in a basket I'm putting together for one of our local charity auctions. Thanks again for joining me here at Fun Stuff Crafts for another Inspiration Friday project. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on making a glass cutting board. If you did, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. And also, I invite you over to my blog at funstuffcrafts.com, where I've got lots more projects that will help inspire you to create. Thanks, and see you next time.